Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello. Okay, welcome to the inaugural A3 battle. That sounds very loud. Okay, that's fine. I'll just try and push the volume down a little bit. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out today. Those of you who are spectating, and those of you who want to learn how to try this out for your own clubs, or to go for a club versus club. I am just going to do a very brief summary of how things are going to run tonight. Because we're pressed for time, I'm not going to do a toast this evening. We're just going to get straight on. A few basic notices. The bathrooms are just out and to the left. Yeah, to the left. As you get closer to the entrance. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a little bit more aggressive than you would typically see in an ordinary Toastmasters meeting. But we are here to learn, we are here to have fun, and try to jostle each other up a little bit. We do have, I do believe that we have all of our main role players here, but particularly our timekeepers are here. Then our fact checkers, Kirika, you're here, and Claude and Jordi, you're here as well. Okay. All right. We have all of our judges present. Elspie, Martinus, there we go, Martinus, Jacobus, and Brenda. There we go, and Brenda, there we go. And then, of course, we have our tiebreaker judge. Tiebreaker judge will also be acting as the chief judge. Our chief ballot counter is missing, so Karusha has just been promoted. She is from a completely different area as well, and so we will keep it fair. But I won't be seeing the scores. The scores will be tallied by Karusha and the chief judge. Okay. Before I go on to the actual introduction of the speeches and how we're going to do this, I'm going to hand over to the lady that helped me make this all possible, basically did most of the heavy lifting, Christine Tomaidis, our area director. Thank you very much.
It is a great honor and privilege to welcome such a full house this evening. Thank you, Mr. Ballot Counter. If I could ask you to sit next to Karusha at the back, as she will be your colleague for this evening. Welcome, Percy. It's lovely to have so many people here, first of all, and secondly, to have so many people from other areas. Tonight is not only special for Fernando, who's doing this debate as a HBL, oh no, not HBL, it's DTN.
Yeah.
And for myself, I think as an area director, we're all pushing forward to leave a legacy. And I do believe that starting debating again, specifically in A3, and then hopefully moving to A4, we have the A4 director here as well as vital in other areas. So we are definitely Division A, and maybe tonight one of you can put your hands up to maybe go forward to be Division A director. If you're interested, please come and speak to me afterwards, and then we can actually incorporate it for the entire Division A, focusing on A3 at the moment, moving forward. So I don't want to waste too much time. I do think that debating adds another dimension to the club meetings, so we can do them informally, in-house within the clubs. I also think not just for debating in itself. I think learning how to prepare for debate also helps our content in the speeches that we're preparing normally. It gives it a little bit more oomph. It helps and guides us to be a bit more factual and to improve the content of our speeches. So that's another reason why I'm quite excited about debating. So if I can please just quickly give a round of applause for Nando for arranging all this and all the hard work that he's put into with the ballots and the judging and everything. We can just all give you. And back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You'll see that the agenda is somewhat more detailed than what would normally happen in an ordinary meeting, but it's so that everybody can see how it's going to flow, especially since this is a club versus club. We're not going to be doing votes because it could be too easy for one club to outdo the other just based on numbers. I would ask the judges, I have asked them before, but I'm going to ask the judges once again to judge each speaker based on the criteria given, which is the material, the organization, and the delivery. Please do not let your personal view on the topic take precedence over what you have to judge. Tonight is being recorded, not only for posterity, but to also show that a debate, a 2 versus 2 debate with judge time, with timing criteria, can be done in under an hour. Further to that, I also want to reiterate for the camera directly that the debate is for educational purposes only, and the views expressed by the speakers, just want to get it right, the views expressed by the speakers do not necessarily express what they believe themselves. They are arguing for their side and to try to win. Right. Then, some advice for the speakers. You have been warned about the time penalties. Do not do the typical Toastmaster thing of Mr. Chair, Mr. Debate Chair, audience, ladies and gentlemen, the screen, the guys on the camera, whatever. Don't waste your time. It's just some advice from me. Get into it. All right, if you want to thank people, there's time afterwards. So before we begin, I'd like both teams to please stand. Face each other in front of me. All right, guys. No eye gouging.
Oh, boom!
No eye gouging. No punches below the belt.
I want my
No biting. No stabbing. Touch gloves and always keep yourself safe at all times.
You see, nothing about kicking. Kicking is subtle here.
Right, guys. No, please shake hands and remember that this is all in good fun. Okay, guys. Thank you. All right. We will be starting in the affirmative. Timers, please be ready. Timing starts on the first sound or the first gesture. You have 4 to 5 minutes with a 30-second leeway. After the 30 seconds, you will have a penalty. After 45 seconds, your speech is disqualified. This is the only time I will say that. Thank you. Starting in the affirmative, Speaker A, Paul Miller, on the topic, renewable energy is the only way forward for the world's energy crisis. Mr. Paul Miller.
Well, dear fellow bioorganisms on this small green-blue speck that we call home, I want to say to you that it's a pleasure to make the argument for today because it's something that I actually believe in. So it's not just a demonstration of an ability to debate and argue. It's going to be a delight to talk to you about the case for renewables. Now, in 5 minutes, my talk must include 3 things. Essentially, I need to frame the debate. I'm sorry to do that, but I have to do it. I need to make brief comments on nuclear power in relation to renewables as well. And the other thing I would like to do is to obviously make some positive arguments in favour of renewables and storage. So you will forgive me for this necessary introductory period where I must essentially invest time in describing to you part of the problem with this debate. I do not want to get hijacked by wordplay nonsense. This debate cannot be anything other than the substantive points in this significant issue. The question for this was renewable energy is the only way forward for the world's energy crisis. That is not. Renewable energy is the only way forward. It's the only way. We are not going to be on this side, woke little Nazis, talking about this being the only way forward. 10% of this conflict might be due to a difference in opinion, but it will not be due, the 90%, to the wrong tone. Renewables. I'm not having this game of insisting that renewables, our side will only argue for renewables being the only way forward, on the basis of us being sort of misguided ideological tree huggers. No, we are not playing that game tonight. Instead, on this side, we will take a scientific and an economic and a risk-based assessment to this being a topic that renewables unequivocally win. If the opposition wastes time in the use of phonological games, you must dismiss that in my view. You are wasting the substantive topic if that is the case. I do not want to make arguments on specious linguistic nonsense. So now to my brief comments on nuclear power. In this short debate format, where the rules preclude me from bringing up other subjects later after this 5 minutes, that's just the way of this short debate format. They preclude me from bringing up new subjects, so I have to mention something to do with nuclear power because I think it's going to be a substantive point that the opposition will bring up. My colleague will do the better job of bringing in more about the renewables and the positive points, but I need to frame this for us and for you, the audience. One of the things is that it might be brought up that nuclear fusion is a way ahead. Well, ITER starts up in 2025. It's a commercial nuclear venture. It occurs in the south of France. It's in 2025. If it happens, and if it's positive, we still win. It's a renewable energy. They lose the argument if they decide to go down the nuclear fusion route. If they propose nuclear fission, the standard nuclear model that we're all familiar with around the world that's been going on since the 1950s in power plant terms, they also lose, and that is unequivocal. And they lose on the basis of the disposal of fissile waste, which is unquantifiable in economic terms and poorly quantified in risk terms, which we shall come to later. I leave that door open. I only have 5 minutes. I don't want to discuss a short-termist approach to risk. We shall leave that to the rebuttals. So I want to now engage with the positive points of renewables being the case for. I cannot deal with biomass and hydro and geothermal and tidal and wind and all of these things in a few minutes. So I'm going to pick one, and I think it's fair enough because most of the points, they apply to the others as well. This is a mix. It's a graph showing you the mix of energy that's been present for essentially a lifetime. I want you to look at the left-hand side back to 1970. So here we're looking at coal forming about 40%, Hydro forms a significant amount. You can see oil plays a fairly, 15% roughly, significant portion. Look at the development of solar and wind and renewables over time. Look at the diminishment of nuclear and how it should be diminishing further. It is not impossible to look and see how we do with regard to solar. At this point, I'm going to leave you on this slide because I'm risking running over, and we will come back to photovoltaic costs later, which have diminished rapidly. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Fact checkers, anything that stood out? Thank you. Speakers' time?
5 minutes, 31.
5 minutes 31. I'm afraid that's a penalty. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, that is a penalty. Judges, I'll give you 1 minute to score. Judges, timers, may I please have 30 seconds for the judges? I'll just let me know when 30 seconds is up. Judges, please raise your hand when you've scored the speaker. Judges, we must move on. Okay, thank you. Judges, we must move on. Thank you. And now, speaking in the negative. On the topic, renewable energy is the only way forward for the world's energy crisis. Speaking in the negative, Annelies Arends.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at 3 words: renewable energy, only, and energy crisis. So let me start with energy crisis. What is an energy crisis? Now, things that contribute to an energy crisis is the supply and demand, the cost, disasters. I want to highlight some of them. The war in the Ukraine that we're all familiar with. They've stopped the gas coming to Europe, and that suddenly spiked the prices of gas supply. So everything is impacted. You're going to a restaurant, the prices are higher. What you pay on a monthly basis is higher. So it's time to say, this wasn't the supply that's in the ground, but the supply from a human source or a government to another government. As I said, the cost, disasters is another one. In India, beginning of the year, there was a major flood, and the hydro dam that was supplying power to a region suddenly was washed away. Is that constituting a supply crisis? It's something that can be rebuilt. It's humanly generated or put together, and I think that's something that's not the demand or really the supply that's influenced. It's something that can be regenerated. If we look at the word only, I think there we have to look at different industries. We can't say that you only look at renewables and that your manufacturing industry should focus on changing to renewables. Their demand for energy is much higher than what a lodge might be or a domestic home is in need of. The influence on the environment varies as well. On Euronews, there was reference to Nigeria, Lagos, where the squatter camps no longer had wood. So what did they do? They burned plastic bags to be able to cook food. So going back and saying that the supply is a problem, if you look at developing countries and developed countries, in developed countries, like Paul indicated, it looks like there's actually a shift. Instead of them using less non-renewable fuels like coal and gas, there's actually a decline in renewables. If I look at countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, they are producing oil. And the UK is only 9% of its electricity comes from renewables. The UK, 7%. Japan, 6%. And Russia, Lowell, only 3%. So if you look then at developed countries, it looks like they're in a comfort zone. They have no incentive to move away from the reliance on oil and coal to renewables. In developing countries, the chances of using renewables is much better because you still have to develop industry. If you in South Africa, if you're far from the grid that Eskom has supplied the country with electricity, it's difficult to divert it and get your electricity. But it's much easier, cost effective maybe, and your time period is much quicker to get electricity to your side. If we look at industries like I mentioned, just this morning on the news was ArcelorMittal that is closing down a plant because the energy supply in South Africa, we all know, is constantly interrupted. The cost of electricity went up, not just because it is unviable or there's no electricity. We know all the fields or the power stations are there, they're just not supplying enough. And that's not having coal necessarily, but of the human factor not supplying and maintaining the infrastructure. Astral Foods is another one. They have a massive cut in the profits also due to electricity. Not enough electricity, but once again the human factor. Thank you.
Thank you. Fact checkers, Zita? Any comments? No? Okay. Speakers' time, please.
5 minutes and 18 seconds.
Judges, 5 minutes and 18 seconds. No penalty. You have 1 minute to score. If I could please have 1 minute time. Question? Guys, just to be clear, the reason that I'm strict with the judges is so that every speaker has an equal footing. The judging is supposed to be more objective than ordinary contests. How's the time? Judges, please raise your hands when you're ready. You have 10 seconds. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Our next speaker, speaking in the affirmative, is Mr. Stefan Janssen van Rensburg.
Ladies and gentlemen, energy crisis. The opposing team did my job for me. There is an energy crisis. We are using more energy per person than we did a couple of years ago. Let's go back. 2006. No load shedding. A year later, load shedding starts. South Africa is shocked. Energy is interrupted. Fast forward to today. Stage 6 load shedding. There is an energy crisis. If we think now about renewables, on the other hand, we've got plenty of supply that we can use. We have got wind, sunlight, tidals. We have got waves and biomass. And that's only what is available to use within South Africa. The interesting point that our opposition brought in as well is energy prices. And it got me thinking again. How reliant are we as people on a fossil fuel and the OPEC that decides what they're going to charge us for this fossil fuel? So with energy independence, no one's going to tell you how much you need to pay for a ray of sunlight. It's there. It's usable. We can just use it. Now I want to shift a little bit to a little bit of technological advancements that is in the focus of renewables. Solar panel efficiency increased by 25% in 10 years. So you can create 25% more power than you did 10 years ago if you use solar panels. And let's just think about it. If you drive through your neighborhood, how many people do you see that have invested in solar panel, in solar power? It is just the obvious choice. There is no other choice but renewables. Now, the interesting thing also about our coal-fired power stations and so forth is greenhouse gas emissions. What does it do to our families? What is the impact of it? We have got global nations that have signed pacts and treaties to limit our greenhouse gases. Therefore, burning of fossil fuels must be dangerous to our health. There is no other argument. Now, the one thing I do think that the opposition might bring in is, oh, what about jobs? In 2022, 13.7 million jobs were attributed to renewable sector. And in South Africa alone, 55,000 of those were in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, no matter how we look at this, from what perspective, if it's from our health, from our economic environment, from renewable sources, the only way is renewable energy. And just an interesting fact that our colleagues omitted about developed countries and renewable energy. Germany last year produced 46% of their electricity based on renewables. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Speaker's time, please.
4 minutes, 34.
4 minutes 34. No penalty. And then fact checkers. Kelika? All good?
Excuse me.
Yes.
On the fact, did the speakers say it was globally 36 million?
13.7 billion globally, and my source is
And this is why I asked for the fact checking straight after the speaker so we can deal with it immediately.
my source is arena.org.
And when was that?
This was based in 2022.
Okay? Facts are cited and correct, no penalty. Please have 1 minute for the judges. Judges, please raise your hand to let me know that you're done. Thank you. All judges complete. Thank you. And our final speaker for this opening section, speaking in the negative, Mr. David Raats on the topic. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as my colleague said, we're going to look at 3 points. Renewable, only, and crisis. My colleague already looked at crisis and only. I'm going to look at renewable. And I found it actually as a misnomer. Everybody thinks of renewable being wind and solar. But everybody forgets that's renewable, but that doesn't give you energy. You need the panels, you need the turbines to give you the energy. And according to 2 sources here, the first one being USGC, SGS, that's United States Geological Survey, you use a lot of minerals, metals, and rare earth elements in all of these technologies that's renewable. And as it's stated here from the Palmetto, the source, a leading clean energy marketplace and tech service platform, it uses a lot. You can go through the list afterwards if you want to, of these minerals. So the question is it renewable? It's just as renewable as coal, nuclear, and gas. So ask yourself, is it renewable? Opposition also then went and highlighted Germany. Germany that already benefited from renewable energy to give them an infrastructure where they can actually then go and use renewable energy. They've got the money to get the batteries and the solar panels on their roofs to use that. But if you go to any informal settlement in South Africa, you will see that they are using coal, gas, paraffin, wood to get the sources they need for warmth and food. So I think it's easy for a first world country, and Germany, by the way, is a first world country. It's not a developing country, it's developed. So using that as a source, I feel is not true to the nature of maybe they used India or an African country. Efficiency, I agree. When I was at school, and you would have seen this in most school textbooks in the 60s and 70s, it said that we will run out of crude oil by the year 2000. It never happened. Why? Because as I clearly explained to us, technology. At the moment you can get way more energy out of a liter of crude oil than you did in the 70s. And as explained, the technology will see to it that we are more efficient with the energies we've got. And as my colleague said, why only? We can use fossil fuels, we can use nuclear, we can use wind turbines, hydro, whatever renewable energy we can think of. And why, if we always think of energy, we think of OPEC? It's not only OPEC. We don't get only our energy from crude oil. As already stated, nuclear is a viable option, as with all the others. You've got hydro. You've got geothermal that's still being developed so we can get the most out of that. So what will be shown by our colleagues that are trends, and that because of these trends we have to change our trajectory of what we've used in the past. And we feel that is not the only way of doing it. There's a lot of ways of doing it. So,
speaker's time, please.
4 minutes, 09.
4 minutes 09, no penalty. Fact checkers, any issues? Fact checking, all clear. Thank you. Now please have 2 minutes for the judges to please finish scoring and to please total your scores for this first section. To try and save a bit of time, I'm going to explain the next section. The next section is an interrogation. The judges will score the person attacking. The person who's attacking is the person who asks the question. The team may confer with one another on the question. They may confer with one another on the answer. However, only the first speaker of each team may answer, and only the second speaker of each team may ask the question. Okay? The judges will score based on the reaction or on the response of the responding team, how well the question or questions were structured. There are no time penalties. There are no time penalties for this section, but I want to try to keep it to roughly 3 to 5 minutes per question and answer. All right? Again, I'm trying to prove to Toastmasters that this can be done. So hence why I'm being so strict and why the charm of an ordinary meeting is somewhat different. Okay. Ready? 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 Thank you. Last judge. Ready? All judges clear? Madam Chief Judge, happy? Thank you. And no. Unfortunately, so ordinarily in a different seating arrangement, the speakers would actually be arranged facing the audience. We don't have that with this auditorium, so we're going to do the best that we can. In that, I think from your own seating positions, you can ask your questions. If that would be okay with both teams, is that
I'd
all right?
rather stand, Lando. if
As
that's
you'd
okay,
like to stand?
Just to project to the
Okay.
audience.
All right. No. Okay, that's absolutely fine. So starting out, speaker D, that would be David, will be interrogating speaker A, which would be Paul Miller. When you're ready. Okay. You just have to ask questions, but yeah. Remember what I said in the briefing yesterday and the day before?
Thank you, Paul, for your presentation. You had one graph on there where you showed the trends, how coal goes off, goes down, and you've got your renewables that's increasing. So as we all know, what gets measured improves. So there are clear incentives for renewable energy, politically wise. Why do you think? Because my gut feeling tells me that is why these renewables are increasing, because there are strong incentives for them to increase. Do you agree with that? And why do you agree with that? Or if you don't agree.
There have got to be two parts to the answer to this question. The first part is concerning market forces and whether that is an inappropriate thing to do or not. The underlying reason why it might be appropriate, rather than might, it is appropriate, is to do with climate change. Now, I'm not going to go into the various sub-conspiracies of climate denial, change denial. I think it's reasonable to accept that there is an unequivocal change that we can see in our everyday lives and an inter-decade measure. South Africa this year is predicted to have the hottest temperature in 118 years of records. I think that market force influence on the proportion of energy subsidy versus oil, which is obviously an international or very geo-local Middle Eastern, American, Russian acquired resource, market influence isn't necessarily a bad thing and brings about market energy independence for poor countries. It probably levels the playing field. The second aspect of this is actually to do with costs, nothing to do with market. Back in 1977, I was a wee boy, and it cost $76 for one photovoltaic panel. Now, as a result of global market impacts, not subsidization, the cost is under 30 cents in 2015. In 2018, it became naturally, without subsidy, more competitive than any fossil fuel. A solar panel is a piece of glass, 90% silicon on the back of it. A bit of silver, used to be a bit of lead, they're working away from that, working away from the toxic things, and an aluminium frame. I would argue that solar is such a sensible renewal feature. You can forget about this being some unnatural bias that's unsustainable. Even if it were market capitalism that was driving this change, it would be for a decent reason of climate change. I leave you on the fact that it speaks for itself in economic terms.
Thank you for that. Yes, I just want to point out on my one citation, yes, you've got your big five, but then you also have your rare minerals, the selenium, gallium, nickel, indium, tellurium, and they are rare minerals, not a lot.
Do you want an answer to that?
Yes,
Sure.
so that is rare elements. As you said, it's going to increase. Don't you think exactly what's happening with coal and all the other carbon, that's exactly what's going to happen with
The rare earth
Yeah,
minerals. Well, actually, according to the projections, absolutely not at all, either now nor in the future. So the ones that I thought that you were going to pick on were not these rare earth elements, which have much less of a renewable footprint and carbon footprint than the traditional fossil fuel burning. Okay, and they also bring economic opportunities to other parts of the globe that, quite frankly, are disenfranchised. But not only that, but a lot of these metals are already being recycled from solar panels at a rate of knots. There's Norwegian research institutes that have developed the recycling of old solar panels into new. There's work done in France at the research institutes that have totally different technologies that are able to delaminate existing solar panels. This means even old solar panels that were made 25 years ago, so they've got a roughly 20 to 30 year lifespan. Right? In practice, in developing countries, they're even used for even longer than that. You can reuse those. And the other minerals that you mentioned that may be new for the overall increase of global capacity are not as substantive as some of the problems that you see with coal. Can I give you a sub-answer to that as one example, and I will finish?
Okay,
Nando?
Yeah.
Or not?
I just want to. Can I ask maybe another question?
You may. Right, you're going to lose on lead in solar panels, for example.
I actually agree with you. As we said, we're not looking only. We're looking at all of them. Why only renewables? My other question is, and we talk about the solar panels, but what about the batteries?
Okay.
And the lithium ion and the impact that has where children have to go and mine these lithium and the others that go with it, so that we can have the batteries to run all of our systems, our renewable systems.
Okay, so you've got really two questions within that though. There's only and there's the storage problem. So the only aspect I said right from the outset, because when I looked at this, I did not want to make the arguments on only. You're trying to paint this side as a dogmatic only, this is the only way forward. In fact, I'd be the last person to suggest that we want this level of idiocy and dogma. Let's not play language games here. The problem is effectively it is the only way forward. And it's effectively the only way forward because of problems in nuclear waste removal. And I will come to that not now because that will tread on your time. But I will come back to that point, I promise you, if nothing else in the closing statement, so that you see the fullness and the implications, not just for us, but intergenerationally for millions of years. That's the most substantive point. If you want any questions over the coffee break about this, let's talk about it, okay? My brother used to work as the UK head for the Nuclear Biological Chemical Warfare Agency for NATO, and I want to talk to you about the nuclear risks. The second part of this was about storage. And storage, am I over?
No, there's no time limit, but you're allowed to answer. This is your last answer.
Thanks. Storage is the other effective thing, and I actually would have thought that the opposition would have made much more use of the problem of storage of renewable energy. This has only been brought up now as a subpart to an answer. Let's tackle that head on. Batteries at the moment are, for example, a common one that you'll just go get in your Black November sale, a lithium battery for your Wi-Fi or for your house or whatever it is. Lithium, in terms of its energy security, has massively increased in terms of its efficiency in the last 20 years. There's huge technological drive. But people recognize that lithium is a damaging to the environment, limited number of sites where it can be mined, controversial battery storage system, but it's proven at this time period. But make no mistake that whilst it's controversial, it is not nearly as contaminating as traditional fossil fuels have proved to be. Not are speculated to be, have proved to be. Gauteng has one of the highest PM2.5 rate particulate matters in the air of any country in the world on the basis of coal burning in Mpumalanga. It's the same in India, it's the same story in China. Fossil fuels are proven. Lithium is less of a problem. The other renewables are coming along at a rate of knots. Sodium sulfur batteries are back in fashion as of this year. 5 times the energy density of lithium. Kinetic energy storage underground, able to do it at your own house on a spring. Gravity storage, huge weights stored in existing mine shafts. Hydroelectric power, pumping the water back up to the top whilst you've got optimal solar power or wind power, and then using that as the effective battery. Gravity batteries, water batteries, sodium batteries. All of these substantially less contaminating than anything that the fossil fuel lobby have to offer. Thank you.
No, you guys aren't done.
Oh, we're not done. Okay.
Not done. Still have a second round. Yes. Sure. Oh. Fact checkers. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay, guys, just to let you know, this section is actually what debating is about. Okay? This is the fun bit. All right. At least for me. All right. This is the debating is. Debating is actually dialogue. Actually dialogue. We're doing a shortened version in Toastmasters, but that's what debate is. And now, with their opportunity of rebuttal, the new attacking side will be the affirmative side, which will be Stefan, and he will interrogate the negative side. The only person who may answer is Annelies. You guys may confirm. Remember, the scorer is the person who scores is the person who asks the question. But sorry, it's clear in the judges' ballot. I apologize. Thank you. Please, when you're ready, Stefan.
Yeah, Annelies, what strategy do you propose for long-term storage, considering half-life of uranium-235 of about 700 million years and plutonium-239 half-life of 240,000 years, and the disposal of nuclear waste, considering the environmental and public health challenges associated with radioactive waste?
I can help you out. There is no answer.
We're still debating.
Conferring, you're not debating.
Yeah, please use Stefan. Stefan, you have a very valid question. I think we don't dispute that nuclear poses a problem, especially with the long lifetimes that you have mentioned. So it's not just 5 years or 10 years, it's thousands of years that you have the waste in there. The idea is that you've seen and you've also mentioned and pointed out that the solar panels have increased in efficiency. So I think in reality, if you think about it, that technology might give us a way to work and in the future to resolve that. So for the time being, depending on the industries, we still need some power, more than what we can provide at this rate by just merely using the solar panels and the wind turbines. So I think there is like you mentioned, there is a place for all the energies at this stage, and it's still, it's a valid question. We don't dispute that. But there's hopefully something that maybe policy can change and that one can look at it in the future.
My last question regarding nuclear is how can advancements in nuclear reactor technology address public concerns regarding safety and potential accidents especially in the aftermath of historical incidents like Chernobyl and Fukushima.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stefan. I think if you've pointed out Chernobyl, you say the huge effect that it had. Also in Japan, I said with the earthquake and the tsunami, there was a big problem with the nuclear reactor there. But in reality, that's old technology that they've used. In the meantime, they've looked and developed a pebble bed and advances, making it smaller, more condensed. So in the future, it's not just looking at a big power station, but probably bringing it closer, making it more simple. As my colleague mentioned, your technology changes. So previously you had rods, and the technology then compared to now is totally different. So there's certainly something that will change, and the new nuclear stations in the future will definitely be safer, and people will be more aware of it.
Liz, are there in your mind any specific breakthroughs or innovation in non-renewable energies that you will believe will outpace the development of renewable technology? So, are there any specific breakthroughs or innovations in non-renewable energies that you believe will outpace developments in renewable technology?
I think you've pointed out that solar panels have increased in efficiency. I think it goes back to the industries that they can improve their efficiency. How do they use the power? So if you look at the different industries, you have a household that uses electricity, and you have your big manufacturing mining companies, and they don't always necessarily can make at this stage do with the solar panels and the batteries that we have. So if there's a breakthrough, I hope it's still coming. But now it was policy and that to curb the emissions, like you've mentioned, and to work going forward to look at renewables. But at this stage, for us, there's a place for each of these power and electricity energy providers.
Last question.
No, that's 3. Okay. Just a note to the judges. I did get asked, is it okay that both teams asked about batteries and asked about the rare earths? Yes, because David introduced it in his opening speech, and although Paul went a little bit over time, he also took the advantage of introducing all of those elements. Okay, so you're allowed to introduce the element. You don't have to elaborate on it in your opening speech, but as long as it's been mentioned, you've opened the door. Okay, so you can. So that the whole thing about the Toastmasters, method or format, is simply not to hide surprises for later. If you've opened the door in the first bits, you are allowed to elaborate. It's not a problem. Okay, and if your opponent opens the door, then off you go as well, as long as the door's been opened. Okay. Judges, just let me know when you're ready. Do you need you to tally? Happy? 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 Okay. Moving on to the concluding speeches. Ordinarily, in the very strictest form, the first speaker of each team would be concluding. I've decided that we're not going to do it that way, that whoever is most comfortable concluding gets to conclude. All right? But since we started with the proposer, or the affirmative, the negative gets to make their argument to you first. So with the first rebuttal and closing argument, speaking in the negative, Mr. David Rance, when you're ready. When you're ready.
2.5, 3.
Your timing, yes, just a reminder, your timing is 2 minutes, 2 minutes minimum, amber at 2:30, red at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At 3 minutes and 30 seconds, you will get a penalty. At 3 minutes 45 seconds, you will be disqualified. Okay? When you're ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a well-known fact, if you want to control people, use fear. That's exactly what our opposing team did. They used fear. They used nuclear disasters, climate change, trying to convince you that we have to go for renewable energy. We are saying there shouldn't be any fear. As human beings, we evolve, we adapt. And with any new crisis, we get new technologies and new ways of solving that. That's what the human race has been doing for, if you believe it, millions of years, thousands of years. So we will not use fear to convince you that they should win. We'll tell you what is possible. What is possible? We're going to start again with what we started off with. Renewable only crisis. There is no crisis. It's a man-made crisis. It's a crisis that politicians are making and decisions they are making to create these fear-mongering crises. We are saying, yes, correct, we believe in all the technologies they are doing. We are saying that's not the only way. Some people will use renewable energy, if you want to believe that, and other people will use the old fossil energy that's also abundant and being used more effectively as we go on. And then lastly, renewable. In the end of the day, the stance we take doesn't really matter if it's renewable or not. We as human beings are adaptable. And as we go on with our evolution, we will get ways to get new energy sources that we don't even know of yet, and we will enhance and improve on the systems we already have. And for all those dangers that our opponents are talking about, that is the challenge we've been working on as a human race for the last decade or 10. And I say we are doing a good job. And don't worry, the earth will not be destroyed in the next 10 years. Our children's children will still have a beautiful, by the way, carbon dioxide makes a very green planet. Sorry.
May I have the speaker's time?
2 minutes, 26.
2 minutes 26. No penalty. Fact checkers? All right. Fact checkers happy, no penalty. Judges, now please have 1 minute for the judges. Happy? Okay. All right. And to close off, in the affirmative, closing off in the affirmative, Mr. Paul Miller.
Will you kindly give me 3 minutes with the bell? I need more than that actually for this, but 3 minutes, thank you. Okay, it's not fear, it's fact. We are dealing as an evolving species with the problems that we have imposed, and that we all know that we have imposed. You don't even have to be a climate science fanatic to just look at the damage around you. My son has asthma, and he has problems breathing at night because of coal burning. These are facts that we have to deal with. Human development and ingenuity has led to the development of renewables, which have unequivocally increased. Countries are not wasting their money globally in this area, including people that were previously developing countries. Everybody's doing it. Hamas and Israel have been in the news this last week. Lebanon with Hezbollah got hit. A little village got taken out where they launched rockets into Israel. That little village had problems because Lebanon is more third world than third world can be possibly imagined, right? They are a failed state at every level for the last 10 years. The village had got together for $3 a month, 60 rand or less a month. They put together a solar unit for their entire village of thousands of people that gave them not only energy security for the first time ever in their little quarter of Lebanon, but water security because they live at the top of a hill and the water had to be pumped uphill. $3 a month from households. Don't give me this that we've got to carry on the way we are. This is an ESCOM. Most people don't have to deal with this stuff around the world. You see in your daily lives the impact of energy and load shedding and soon water shifting. Don't forget that. And don't make light of the nuclear question. I come from a country where nuclear power was an evident problem and one of the first countries to have a nuclear disaster at Sizewell. Nuclear power has been present since 1952. There have been 100 accidents recorded with multiple fatalities at nuclear power plants alone across the globe, or damage of more than $50 million to property, and or both. The biggest ones you hear about, Chernobyl, Fukushima, etc., 100 since 1952. That's nearly 2 a year. And we're talking material that is fissile and will contaminate groundwater for millions of years, not thousands of years, millions. Now, I'm not an anti-nuclear person altogether. I believe in it for research purposes, medicine, and I believe in it for military purposes. You can take that argument out with me on another occasion. But do not mistake the idea that energy security is easily achieved with standard nuclear fission material. I shall happily chat to you about real-time risks on the planet in the last 5 years alone. Thank you.
Time for the speaker, please.
01.
3 minutes and 1 second. No penalty. Fact checkers.
Mr. Debate Chair, maybe you can help with this. Mr. Miller said that introduced that Lebanon is a failed state and that they've used solar to provide energy security. Would that be seen as a substantiation of solar or new evidence being entered?
Substantiation. They did open the door when it came to first, second, and third world countries in the open state.
Then no other comments.
No? Yes?
Quick question. You said coal burning. You said your son is affected by coal burning, and as a result has gotten asthma. Is it because you live near to a coal mine? You want to live near to a coal mine?
There's a very, very well recognized and proven association between coal burning and fossil fuel burning and the development
Sorry,
of asthma.
please stop. Are you questioning any data that is presented?
Yes, so basically my question is, does coal affect everybody?
He did not say that. He did not present any data. It was an anecdote.
Oh, okay.
Okay, please sit
But
down.
it does.
Thank you.
He's going to do another speech.
Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. I know this is very strict, but it is to be fair to both teams. All right. Is there anything else that was brought up? Thank you.
I'm sorry, Paul proved that his son got it from Paul.
He didn't say it.
He didn't say it.
Yeah,
He didn't say that.
his son had S, which is made he didn't say it.
But his words. Can you prove? I'm just saying factually, can you prove that?
So sorry, you call on them. So I'm a veterinary surgeon by training. I've had 14 years working in human hospitals and internal medicine and dealing with respiratory cases. So the answer to your question is an unequivocal yes. Coal dust, particulate matter in cross-temporal, cross-geographic studies is a known associative risk factor, a causative risk factor for the development of asthma.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please. The door was opened when Mr. Miller introduced that particulates could cause diseases. If he chooses to use an anecdote in his closing speech, he may, provided the door was open. The door was opened in the opening speech. The matter is now concluded. Thank you. Judges, if we could please have your scores. Please let me know that when you're done.
You want us to shout them all out?
Okay, no.
So they know
Right.
to attack us.
Okay, please, when you're ready, please fold your judges. When your scores are ready, please fold them over and hand them over to Percy. Okay. Please tally quickly. 30 seconds. Madam Chief Judge, please keep your score with you. Ladies and gentlemen, please ask for silence while the judges are still finalizing. We are waiting for one more judge. Judge, you have 20 seconds. Mr. SAA, do you have four ballots?
Yes, I have a total of 4 ballots.
Thank you. Madam Chief Judge, will you please leave with the ballot counters? That would be Sam and Karusha. Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm now going to hand over to our area director. And besides the ballot counting, just to let you guys know, we have done this in 1 hour and 6 minutes. That's with the additional time for the debate. So, Toastmasters, it can be done. Thank you. Area Director, thank you.
stand on opposing sides, but if you do wish to, that's also fine.
We're all friends here.
Well, I don't know about you, but I mean, I was getting quite tense there. I mean, I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah. My first question, this is just a minute each. Just if you could just answer, I'll just ask you one question each. Paul, I know that obviously Fernando and Atay, you've been quite into the debating. If you could just give us a bit of a background on your previous activities of debating, perhaps, prior to joining TAG.
Sure. I wasn't expecting this. I thought it was going to be on solar and
Oh, was it supposed to be?
No, maybe not at all. So I was encouraged by my parents, probably at the tender age of 13 or 14, to enter my school debate team. We had not long moved to Scotland. I was up on the northeast coast in Aberdeen, and if you ever go to that part of the world, it's a very harsh accent there, very difficult to understand. So frankly, when you're debating against other people from Aberdeen, you never know whether you've won or lost because you can't understand. It took me at least 2 years to get into the accent change. And I hated it, I have to say, not the accent, but the debating. But later on, I thought that it was an interesting thing to do, and I'm naturally pugilistic. So I do like the combat of discussing ideas well. And if any of you want to come to TAG, we do debates, classical, and we're going to do other versions as well. We've done one-on-one, and now we're seeing this very good format that's the sort of traditional, but short form, Cambridge or Oxford form. And we also do things like dialectical talks as well. So, you know, it's a good opportunity to practice.
Thank you very much. Annalise, now we did a little bit of we had the educational from Nando, and then we had in the impromptu speaking section, we had a little mini debate. What do you think you've learned from then when we started to now receiving all the
Real process.
all the real process and whatever? Do you think, what have you learned? And if you could just maybe explain that for us.
I think because we did it in the table topics impromptu session, it was much shorter, and you didn't have to substantiate or bring in like opening and frame your point of view and build on that. And then you have to rebuttal. So it's definitely a huge difference between the two. But I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. Stefan, you are the newest member of, I think, of the debating team to Toastmasters. You've only been a member of TAG 4 or 5 months? About. And now they've thrown you in the deep end with debating. So well done for sticking. Do you feel that learning how to debate will help your preparation of your speeches moving forward outside of the debating?
Oh, definitely, yes. Short answer is definitely yes. Longer answer, yes. Still yes. I do think though that, as Elise mentioned, this whole framing, and you have to put in a lot of thought process and research and so forth to make sure that you. I think that the amount of research tabs that I have open on what devices are just phenomenal. But you have to be ready for anything. So it prepares you for the table topics aspects of it. It definitely prepares you for the prepared speeches and even for the lectures. So the educational speeches later on. So I do think though that these debate formats help you with not just that, but also in practical work environments as well. Definitely work environment.
Thank you. That was actually my next question for David. David, I sort of pulled his arm. Could you please debate? Because I thought it would be nice for somebody that's maybe not on the exco as well to get more involved. And you said, well, I've never done a debate before. I've never been involved in a debate. I don't know anything about it. Would you say that you would be able to use this in your professional life, outside, and in what manner perhaps?
True, yeah. So, firstly, I've never debated in my life, so this was an interesting
No.
journey.
What? Are you serious?
I've never debated, no, not officially. Obviously, with other people, you would have discussion, argument, but I've never debated in my life, so this was awesome. I quite enjoyed it. What can you learn? So firstly, note taking, because I found my stuff spread in front of me, and that's why I missed 1 or 2 points, and I should have brought it up. So, yeah, that, and then secondly, it's one thing standing in front of an audience, Toastmaster audience, and doing a struggle topics. You know, you can win it. You've got a minute. You've got nothing to lose. Yeah, I've seen tonight organizing your thoughts and really quick, because you have to make notes of what they've said and think how you're going to talk about that. So organizing your thoughts is something crazy. This is on steroids. So I'm looking forward to doing this again so that I can maybe get better organizing your thoughts. And how will that help me in my profession? Oh dear, your students.
You're poor student.
Yeah. I can see how it can work just in general in life. Just organizing your thoughts very quickly and just speaking.
Can I add a little comment? Because I don't believe you that you've never done it before. When you got up and you said, I had to remember I was the mediator. When you got up and you said, guys, they're just doing scare tactics. It's just there to scare you. I thought, what a bloody stroke of genius. I thought that was masterful. And you so nearly got Paul on the defensive. So nearly. And it was bloody clever. I have to say, really. And I saw Paul actually go, they're trying to say, and then he thought, he's trying to draw me in here. I actually saw Paul going, he's trying to draw me in here. I'm not going to fall for it. And it was almost there. It was almost there. So I thought that, sorry. When you said you've never debated before. Okay. All right.
Get us luck.
Okay.
If I may, David is always one that's believed that get out of your comfort zone. And if you say yes, he will just say no, just to test the waters and see what your reaction is.
So he's a natural.
Yeah, I think
No, this is great. I like the format.
Thank you so much. Could everybody give that? As you can see, this is a wonderful platform at Toastmasters to learn, and I hope that all the clubs that are here present will be engaging more in debating, as I'm sure we will at Cientia, especially because I'm the VPE, so I did that. So back to that.
Now, the moment we've all been waiting for. And the winners, from what I can see on the scores here, by a hair's breadth. Is the affirmative side. Pretoria Tag, congratulations. I'm not going to tell you exactly what the scores are, but I can tell you the difference was 4 points.
Wow.
4 points. That's nail biting. It's nail biting. Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a labor of love for me for probably about 2 years. I've been researching this method and this format for over a year. I have an area director who put her hand up and said, I will help you. We will get this done. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who participated. I know I'm supposed to bring chocolates, but I've had a week from hell, so I'm so sorry, all the role players. I was supposed to bring you things. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for helping me out. Thank you for putting your hand up, for volunteering. Christine, once again, from the UK, helped making sure that your team, that Cientia had people to participate in. To my friends and my colleagues at Pretoria Tag, to our friends at Pretoria East, who, when I went to do my educational there, I was dead certain they hated me and did not ever want to see me again.
And now we've got 7 of us here.
And now you've got 7 of you here, so thank you so much. That really means, really, I walked out of there after I gave my speech, after I gave my education. I told them how aggressive and how almost hostile you have to be, and I saw half of that club just literally fold their hands and just look away, and I thought, oh no, I'm doing it's at the wrong place, and to see you all here is really, it's almost emotional, so thank you so much. Guys, I really hope that you take this back to your own clubs. As we've said, there are many different ways of debating. There's a didactic, which is not as aggressive, if you guys want to do that at your clubs. The reason we've done the judges club versus club is so that it can be as objective as possible. But at your own club, to make it even faster, I've now finished doing a debate at a club where it was 2 versus 2, and we simply did it on votes, straightforward on votes, and we finished that debate in 45 minutes. 45 minutes, 2 versus 2, easy peasy. You can do that in an ordinary meeting. I encourage you guys to please try. Thank you all so much once again. I'm going to ask Stefan to please, just before the YouTube, if you can, write a little screen that says, for educational purposes only. This does not reflect the views of the actual speakers. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I'm sorry for the seriousness, but it is important that we have this as a difference as well. I now hand over to the SAA to close us off. Thank you.